Spooky salutations! This is Scenes, Screams, and Spooky Themes, a horror movie recap and review podcast.
Each episode, we break down a horror movie piece by piece and also give you our unhinged opinion on it.
Join us, your hosts, as we determine who the real monster is, the government or a mutant tadpole thing. This week, we're covering The Host.
I'm Eva. Ready?
I'm Jasmine. Set.
And I'm Cody. Action!
Yay.
Yay! Welcome to a very special episode of Scenes, Screams, and Spooky Themes because it is my birthday!
Happy birthday!
Thank you. I know it's early on in the podcast to get some host lore, but I can't control time. So by the time you listener hear this episode, my birthday, has come and gone. We are currently recording a few weeks in advance, but today is March 13th and my birthday is tomorrow, March 14th. So I selected the movie for this week for my birthday and I selected The Host. But before we get into that, it is time for a little more host lore as, we get to share more about ourselves on this podcast. So today we're answering the question, what is your favorite horror movie genre? Let me start with Cody.
I have a very special love in my heart for the horror comedy. Despite their differences, at first glance, they really lend themselves to lean against one another. As I stated in our previous episode, one of my favorite series is the Evil Dead series, and I think that's a very perfect blend of both genres. Seeing Ash crouch up and down with a possessed lamp will forever live on in my heart.
When he fights his own hand.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's so perfect.
Peak cinema. All right, Jasmine, what's your favorite?
Oh, I love all of them.
Okay, but that's not an answer.
I think it would have to be a tie between paranormal and monster flicks. They're just so fun.
They are so fun. And there's a special something about monster design. If a movie makes a cool monster design, that makes it all the better.
There really is. And the CGI on them is never very good. I feel like it adds a little silliness to the monsters, and I love it.
I agree. My favorite horror movie genre has to be supernatural, mostly because I think it's the scariest. I realize that I don't necessarily believe in ghosts, and I don't believe in ghosts that, murder people. So I'm like, it shouldn't be as scary because I think to myself, this couldn't happen to me. But there's an element for me, like in a slasher, I'm like, well, that's a human. I have a fighting chance. I can do something. When it's a ghost, it's like, well, it's not a corporeal being, so I'm fucked.
I'm a little surprised you don't believe in ghosts.
No, I do. I just don't believe in
do?
ghosts that murder people. Like, I don't believe that someone has been... I mean, someone would have got Zach Bagans by now, am I right?
You would think with the way he acts around them.
So I'm like, I can't say definitively yes or no, but I don't not believe in ghosts. There could totally be ghosts. I believe that, my house may have been haunted, but also then I got cats, and then that made up for a lot of the activity. So I'm like, you haunted, or is it just cats?
Cody, do you believe in murder ghosts?
Specifically murder ghosts? Not really. As far as any other type of ghost, I haven't really seen any. I don't have a childhood haunting story or anything like that. The closest I came was my mother being convinced the house was haunted because a bunch of cups were stacked up, which I never had the heart to tell her I did while I was bored on my lunch break.
It's me, I'm the ghost.
And just kind of let her roll with that for the past, 15 years. Just never corrected her. I say, overall, I'm a bit of a skeptic. Open to the possibility, just never had an instance that convinced me otherwise.
Okay.
Alrighty. Was there any other... I don't know, updates about your lives or anything going on that you would like to share with the listeners?
Well, as it turns out, at work, shortly after our Final Destination episode, I had a bit of a close encounter myself.
Oh no.
Oh no.
So, without getting into too many details, I was using a tool at work called an angle grinder, which spins a
Oh no.
semi-rigid cutting disc at very, very high speeds. Now, while these are capable of cutting through very dense metal, they are themselves very brittle and sometimes will crack. In this
Oh, God.
instance, it decided the final crack it wanted to tolerate before shattering into a dozen pieces and zipping off at very, very high speeds right past my head was when I was holding it about 6 inches in front of my face
Oh.
to cut a piece of metal. Now, I'm fine. I was lucky, but boy howdy, did I tiptoe the rest of the evening.
Yeah, you better watch yourself.
So no premonitions saved you from that moment.
No premonitions.
You know what's extra funny about that? I mean, Jasmine and I are hearing this story for the first time, but you were not in our second episode, and that was just because of scheduling problems. But we didn't really talk about it. We didn't address it.
Oh, yeah.
What if you had?
Oh.
What if something really bad had happened to you and you'd just never come back? And we were just like, doo doo doo.
Nobody talk about it.
Just, hi, I'm Cody. I'm here for Final Destination, and then also this is my final destination. Good luck.
Oh man. Well, we are very glad to have you back.
Yes.
Yeah, our scheduling is working out much better now than it was. So
Very glad to be back and very glad to be unharmed.
yeah, thank God. My cat is no longer dangerous levels of radioactive.
Oh.
Oh, good.
So that's my good news. And it's my birthday. I am turning the big 3-0 tomorrow. So if I don't show up in the next episode, it's because I withered away into dust.
Yeah, that's what happens when you turn 30.
My body has been through a lot over the years. I work a physical job. I've been working physical jobs since I was a teen. So everyone says it gets worse at 30. And I'm like, but it's already so bad.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
I'm 31 and I have arthritis in my knees.
Yay!
Are you excited?
This is definitely my future.
Things have been a little boring and quiet over here. I lost my nail hat. That's officially gone. And I am visiting the eye doctor, which I haven't done in more than 5 years.
For shame.
Oops.
Better late than never.
Yeah, my glasses are weaker than they should be, but it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, well, with that taken care of, we can start talking about the host. Again, I chose the movie because it is my birthday, and this is one of, if not my absolute favorite horror movie of all time. And I will go ahead and tell my story about it. So, when I was in college, I did not know what I wanted to major in. I didn't know what I was doing. I was in a community college, so world's your oyster. And growing up in California, it's like everybody thinks about being in the film industry. And I was like, I like movies. Why don't I just take this film studies class and see where that goes? And so there was a foreign films class, and it was really awesome because all we did was meet twice a week, and we would watch a movie in our theater. Like, we had a little crappy community college movie theater. So I got to see this movie on a big screen. And I didn't get into horror movies until I was in my later teens. So, like, when I was graduating high school is kind of when I started dipping my toe in. And so they were still really scary to me. I wasn't decensed yet. And so watching this movie, still a novice at horror movies, it was quite the experience for me, but it was so different from all of the American movies that I had seen. I was just blown away by how much this movie had to say, the storytelling, the themes, the comedy elements that are thrown in there. While it's still very much a horror movie, it's not a horror comedy. It just has comedic moments that are very meaningful. And so, yeah, I was just blown away by this movie. Bong Joon-Ho is a very meaningful director for me. I have seen most of his films. I aim to see them all, and I love them. And actually, for my birthday tomorrow, we're going to go see Mickey 17, his latest movie. So I'm incredibly excited for that. It's not a horror movie, but I mean, everything that I have seen from this man, I have loved. So I am incredibly excited to be able to cover this movie on the podcast. I did feel like it was a little early to bring in foreign Asian horror movies, but it's my birthday, so I'm doing what I want.
As you should.
Yeah.
Without getting into any spoilers, do you guys have any just like first impressions or just anything you want to say about the movie before we get into it?
I I was impressed by all of the layers of this movie. I wasn't anticipating because I had seen some of his other movies and I was like, "Oh yeah, he's not afraid to get nitty-gritty and say things that people don't really want to hear." But yeah, I was not expecting everything that was packed into it, and the monster, I love her.
The monster is so good. I love this monster, and I'm sorry if this ruins a fun fact. There is a statue of this monster that exists in Korea, and I want to go see it.
That's amazing.
Actually, the statue being erected was one of the little pieces of trivia that I had. There is an extra fact that I can touch upon, or well, since we brought it up now, unfortunately, as of April 2024, I couldn't find
No.
anything more recent, but it was being slated for removal. It didn't say it was
No,
removed yet, just that they were looking.
That's rude.
my chance is gone.
It could still be up. This was from the Korean Times in April of last year. And I mean, I don't know if their government works faster than ours does, but
It could be a while. Who
it
knows?
could still be there. Who knows?
Dear South Korean government, please consider selling me the statue.
It was a really cool looking statue. I actually was not expecting kind of anything that happened in the movie. I was watching it, full eyes the whole time. I stopped taking notes about 30 minutes into it just because like, okay, well, this requires full attention. Yeah, no, I was not expecting a lot of what occurred through the movie. I was very impressed with the monster design and honestly the execution of the CGI. I mean, being a film from 2006, I didn't expect it to be, fantastic, but it holds up reasonably well.
2006 and a South Korean film. So,
Yeah.
America has always been ahead of the curve when it comes to CGI and things like that. So, would you take that into account as well? I think it looks great, but I
Oh
do
yeah.
have some notes about it that we can get to once we see the monster for the first time.
I won't lie. The first time I saw the monster, I thought, "Oh, this looks like something that would be on the Sci-Fi Network. A
Yeah.
monster in one
Yeah, a
of
little
those
bit.
movies or something."
I'm very happy that you guys seem to have enjoyed it and that I
Oh
got
yes.
to broaden your horizons a little bit because this one is definitely more of a cult classic. Like, you know it or you don't.
Yeah, I had never heard of it before you had mentioned it for the episode, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I haven't seen any of his other work. I've heard very good things about Parasite and Snowpiercer, or the other big one
I
that I've been
adore
told
those
about.
movies. Snowpiercer
Yeah.
is a lot of fun for me. Parasite is it's a lot of tension. So,
Mhm.
all right. So that all of you listeners, if you have not had the chance to watch the film, allow me to start my recap so that you can, in at least one way, experience this, what I'm going to call masterpiece. The Host was released on July 27th, 2006, directed by Bong Joon-Ho. We open in a U.S. Army run mortuary in South Korea. It is February 9th, the year 2000. An American doctor and a Korean doctor are cleaning up. The older American doctor, played by Scott Wilson, I just had to give him a shout out because he has a very successful acting career, and I think that he is a hero for being this character because we are about to paint Americans in a very bad light. So they are cleaning up, and he does this classic evil mother in law move of wiping the counter with his hand and then showing the Korean doctor that it's still dusty. He hates dusty.
Classic.
Also, the first time I viewed this film, I was very surprised because this entire opening sequence is in English. So it would have had Korean subtitles.
I thought I was watching an English dub at first, and I was a little confused.
Yeah, I had the
Yeah.
exact experience. I paused the movie for like 5 minutes, went through all my audio dubs. I'm just like, no, there's no way. This is it threw me for a loop.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is in English, true to, what it would be like if this were a real scenario, because we all know that Americans typically don't learn other languages when they
No.
go off to do their army stuff.
Why would we do that?
Yes, and I'm going to make that broad statement. Come for me. It's fine. So the younger doctor offers to clean again, but the older doctor orders him to dump some of the dusty bottles down the drain first. The younger doctor is shocked. He says that's formalin. The older doctor corrects him. It's actually formaldehyde, dirty formaldehyde. I didn't realize that dust on a bottle affected the contents of the bottle,
Yeah, it makes it so dirty.
but okay. The Korean doctor does not want to do this. It's against safety protocols. These are toxic chemicals and they would flow into the Han River. The American doctor doesn't care. He says, dump the chemicals down the drain and into the river. He says, let's be broad minded about this because the Han River is broad. So we cut to a shot of the younger doctor pouring a bottle down the drain. Fumes and vapors rise into the air and he's wearing a respirator. He wipes a finger along the bottle as it drains, looking at the dust. The camera pans out to show a table of how many bottles he's already poured. It just keeps panning. There's easily a couple hundred. We fade to two fishermen fishing in the Han River in June 2002. We are now switching to the Korean language because these are South Korean characters in a South Korean movie.
Makes sense.
They are standing in the river wearing waders. One of them spots something in the water and fishes it out with a cup he's carrying. He shows it to his friend and they comment on how it's gross. It looks like it has a mutation. We never see what's in the cup. The friend goes to poke it, but then draws his hand back in surprise, causing the cup to fall. The first fisherman quickly snatches it out of the water, but the creature they were looking at has been released back into the river. They watch it swim off, commenting on how it has so many tails. It makes their skin crawl.
But how many tails?
So many. That's all we know. Cut to October 2006. Two men are running in the pouring rain on a bridge, yelling after a third man who has removed his shoes and climbed over the barrier. They beg him not to jump. He is staring down into the water and asks if they saw the shadow heated under the water. We see a shot of his POV. There's an odd ripple, bubbling pattern in the water, but no shadow. The other two also stare over the edge of the bridge, but don't see it. They ask him what he's talking about. He calls them morons to the end and throws himself off the bridge.
They didn't really seem to try that hard.
No, they were like, don't do it, don't do it.
Oh no.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, they got distracted really quick.
We get a very dramatic slow-mo shot of him falling, limbs flailing. He hits the water and we see another shot of it from above. We get our title card, The Host.
Here we go.
We see a man asleep at a food stand. It's basically a trailer filled with prepackaged snacks and candies. We're going to be coming back here a lot, so that's what I'm talking about when I say the food stand. This is Gongdu. I should probably put here that, I am not I'm going to do my best with these name pronunciations. I've seen this movie a number of times. I feel like I can say the names in a way that makes sense to English speakers while being respectful to how it'd be pronounced in Korean, but they're not going to be perfect pronunciations, and I don't want to do that thing where you only put on a fake accent to say a name. That being said, if I get these wrong, I am very sorry.
I think that goes for all of us.
Yeah.
I don't know about Cody, but I also do not know Korean, so.
Yeah, there's a name that I was going to point out, one of my little trivia points that I know I was going to butcher the pronunciation of.
I do my best, but I do want to try to call them by their names. So here we go. This is our main character, Gongdu. His clothes are messy, mismatched. They're too large sweats. His hair is unkept. The tips of his long hair are bleached blonde. And yeah, he's asleep on the job. A young boy peeks up at him and reaches to take some candy. An older teen boy grabs him and leads him away. An older man walks up, watching the boys, then turns to a woman who has walked up to make a purchase. He starts to help her and then sees his son asleep. He frustratedly lifts Gongdu's head to get the change he's asleep on. He stares at Gongdu, and we hear a young teen girl yell out, "Dad!" Gongdu wakes immediately and looks around expecting to see his daughter. Seeing that it's a different girl, he plops his head back down to sleep again. His father throws a snack at him to get him up. He tells Gongdu to roast some dried squid for some customers, and then mutters about how much sleep could one body need as he grabs drinks to deliver. It's pretty obvious just from their first interaction that this is his father, so I just started calling him Dad.
Making assumptions.
But correct ones, at least. We see Gongdu struggling to turn on the portable burner for the squid. As his father passes by, he pushes down a lever, and then the burner works. Gongdu is clearly not the brightest. He rips one of the longer legs off the squid and starts eating it. He spots his daughter, Hyun-seo, walking up, and he abandons his job to run up to her in excitement. His own father rushes in to tend to the squid. As Gongdu is running in the grass, he trips and falls at the feet of Hyun-seo. She looks embarrassed and drags him up. He follows her like a puppy dog, asking if her uncle made it to school and trying to lift her backpack for her. She complains that she's the only one who had an uncle come to Parents' Day, but at least he showed up. Gongdu tells her he called, but she didn't pick up. She pulls out an old clunky cell phone. Even by 2006 standards, this thing has, it's pretty old.
You get what you get.
She says it doesn't even receive signals. She's embarrassed by it and hands it to him, saying he can take it. He examines it, and she tells him that she also smelled alcohol on her uncle when he stood at the back of the classroom. Hyun-seo walks past her grandpa, excitedly asking if Namju's, her aunt, Gongdu's sister, competition has started yet. He's tending to the squid and doesn't follow the other two as they enter the trailer. Gongdu gets out a hidden instant noodle container and shows it to Hyun-seo. He tells her he's saving up to get her a new phone. The container is filled with change. She looks at the money, but comments that it's all small change. It won't be enough. She asks if it's all from the change box and threatens to tell her grandpa, but Gongdu just says she can tell the geezer. They clearly have a close relationship. He adores his daughter, and she loves him too, but his bumbling ways have made it clear he's not exactly a role model for her.
Feel nice that he would save up all that change for a new phone.
He's trying his best.
Yeah.
It's immediately clear that he loves his daughter so much. And it's really sweet, actually.
It is, yeah. Even though, he comes off as this kind of lazy, bumbling idiot, he's still, a big softie for his little girl.
If there's one thing he cares about, it's his daughter.
Yeah.
Hyun-seo is looking for the competition on TV when Gongdu points out that there's a news report for a found body, the man who jumped off the bridge. Only half of his body was recovered from the river. Hyun-seo keeps flipping past the report. They find the channel for Namju's competition. It's in archery. They're very excited to cheer her on. Hyun-seo calls for her grandpa, but Gongdu says to just let him run the stand so they can watch themselves. He gets out 2 beers and hands her one with a straw.
Great job.
She asks if he's really her father. She knows that this isn't right. He starts to say that when he was in middle school, but he gets cut off by the semifinals starting. Hyun-seo sips the beer but exclaims that it's bitter and puts it aside. They eagerly watch Namju as the grandpa comes into the trailer. They ask if he'll watch, but he says it makes him too nervous. He tells Gongdu to come outside with him. Outside the trailer, the father confronts Gongdu about eating the leg of the dried squid since he got a complaint from the customer. He tells Gongdu to go deliver some free drinks and another squid to the customers to apologize. He enters the trailer to watch with Hyun-seo. Gongdu arrives at the mat on the grass by the river where the customers are waiting. They're looking out on the river at something. Gongdu follows to see there are several people discussing what it could be. Under a bridge, there's something hanging. Construction equipment? No, it just moved. We see the thing. It's hanging in a teardrop shape, a dark greenish-brown color, and it's big, but hard to tell how big. Back in the trailer, Hyun-seo and her grandpa are cheering. Namju is doing very well. She just got a bullseye. Grandpa is proud. He pulls a curtain to close the stand as he watches his daughter. The spectators on the river ooh and ah as the thing moves. It was a creature, hanging by its tail, its head and limbs tucked in, but now it's lowering itself, stretching out as it falls into the water. And now is when I want to say my comment on the CGI. Like we said before, it's good. This monster is very detailed. It has textured skin. It moves in a seamless way that seems realistic. The one caveat being that it doesn't always blend in well with its surroundings.
Not at all. And that's kind of where I got the feeling that, hey, this could have been something on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, it is not like modern CGI where it could be right there with you. You can clearly see like when something's standing in for it. So it's like, yeah, the monster itself, were it in, say, an animated movie, would be incredible, but it's not. So I see a lot of people criticizing the CGI online when they criticize this movie. But again, I'm like, the monster looks good. You just have to be able to throw yourself into the movie because it's 2006 and it's not an American movie.
Yeah, gotta cut it some slack.
And the design is awesome. Don't worry. When we get there, I have a full description of the monster.
Oh boy.
More people gather by the river as the thing swims closer. Gongdu experimentally throws a can of beer into the water. A long tongue flicks out and grabs the can, dragging it back under the water. The people clamor again in amazement and start throwing food into the river. People speculate that maybe it's one of those Amazonian river dolphins, but it's so big. They note that it swam off without eating anything else. Gongdu resumes his mission of trying to deliver the free food to his customers, but then pauses, staring past him and down the sidewalk to the edge of the river. The monster has emerged and is running towards them. It's running people over and pushing them as it runs. People begin to scream and run. It's a lot of running, obviously. I feel like I just said that word 8 times.
My brain is so rotted by memes that I immediately went, "What the dog doing?"
My brain went to, why are you running? Why are you running?
Why are you running?
Ah!
My first thought was, oh Lord, he coming. So I'm glad we each had our own flavor of brain rot
Yes,
meme
I'm
reaction.
so glad.
This is who we are. So now we get our good look at the monster. It's big. It's standing about the height of a man and a half. At its tallest point, it's long, maybe the size of a school bus. Again, it's dark green, brown in color. It has beady eyes that look filmy. On one half of its face, there are large bumps or boils. It has gills to breathe. Its mouth opens with 4 pink, fleshy mandibles. It kind of is like the predator mouth. It has sharp, shark-like teeth both on the edges of the mandibles and in its inner mouth. Its back humps up in a curve before slimming out into a tail. So it is kind of in this tadpole shape. It has several fish bodies sticking out of its back. It runs on 2 large front legs. It has another pair almost directly behind those, kind of in its armpit area, but they don't reach the ground or do anything to help it move. They just hang and drag. It also has a back pair of tail-like looking legs, but they don't do anything either, and they don't move like arms or legs like the front ones do. Again, they just drag.
The feet on this thing is wild too.
It's got big old feet.
I saw those things flopping around and I was like, what is that?
I have to admit, it took me until this watch, and it has to be around the 8th time I've seen this movie, that I realized that those back legs don't do shit. I knew that its front feet were like the thing that were moving around, but in my head, they like kind of skittered behind it, and they don't even do that. They just flop
I
around.
wonder if when it's in the water, if they all just kind of like spin.
That would be pretty funny.
A bunch of tiny legs kicking.
But I think we know what happened with those extra tails they were talking about before when they caught it as a baby in the river. Anyways, if you're not going to watch the film, and that's fine, I do recommend you look up this monster because I think it is very cool. The monster runs into the park. It slams one person with its tail so hard that he flies across the small hill leading to the riverbank sidewalk and into the water. It's not very graceful on land. It's slipping and sliding as it runs on the hill's uneven surface. Gongdu runs into the park, warning people to run. Cut to a close-up on someone cleaning out their fingernails with a bobby pin as classical music plays. It's a woman sitting in the park with headphones on, oblivious to the birds flying and people running around her. By the time she looks up, she is being run over by the monster, who grabs her by the head with one of its smaller arms and drags her with it. Chaos is ensuing, with people running, screaming, crashing bikes. A dog bites a man in confusion. We get a shot from the POV of a woman on the bus driving past the park on a slightly raised up road. It's pandemonium. Scared people cram into a decorated trailer and close the door behind them. A woman bangs on the door, but then throws herself off the trailer's steps as the monster runs up and rams itself inside. The trailer shakes as people look on and scream. A few people make it out the way that the monster burst in, and they are bloody. The other side is locked with a chain, and people are reaching out as far as they can, their hands and faces peering through the gap, bloody as well. It reminded me a lot of The Walking Dead. Don't dead open here.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, a little bit.
I was trying to remember.
that was about this time too, wasn't it?
No, didn't The Walking Dead come later?
Honestly, I could not tell you because I didn't watch it until I was sometime in college.
I don't think it came out until the 2010s, at least, because I remember watching a few episodes with my friends in high school, and it was not that old yet. This is 2006, so I would have been in the 6th grade.
That's
So
close.
I
4
would
years
not
off.
I would not have had any idea of what The Walking Dead was. So, but yeah, close enough. Who knows? Maybe it was inspiration for that. Blood drips down and begins to pool beneath the trailer. A blond American man is amongst the crowd and declares that he has to help, despite his companion begging him not to. The woman is also begging Gong-do to help the people in the trailer. He begins to run to the trailer, and the American, Donald, joins him. Together they begin tugging on the door, and Donald is kind of trying to take charge, saying, "Let me help," and yelling at Gong-do, who can't understand because he's speaking English. The door bursts open, and everyone who can flees. We don't get a good look inside, but from the one shot we see, there are several dead bodies, wounded people who can't get up, and lots of blood. The monster follows, bursting out of the trailer itself and chasing a man into a parking lot of freight trucks. It's still fumbling around, but clearly learning how to run. Donald pries a cement tile out of the ground, and so he does that spin move and chucks it like shot put. Chucks that thing
What a cool guy.
right at the monster. American hero.
Way to go, Donald.
It breaks by its feet, but doesn't stop the attack. Gong-do grabs a road sign that has a cement weight on the bottom. Donald helps him hoist it up and throw it at the monster. The monster turns to them, revealing that the man it attacked is already halfway down its throat, legs sticking out of its mouth. Donald runs, leaving Gong-do, but they both fall. Gong-do rolls under a truck and sees Donald pinned to the ground by the monster stepping on his arm. It's bloody. Gong-do runs around the trucks behind the monster, lifting the sign again and swinging the cement side down on the monster's tail. Blood spatters, and some gets on Gong-do's face. The monster turns to him. Only the shoes of the man it's eating remain out of its mouth. Gong-do runs. Back in the trailer, it's the last shot of the semifinals. Namju lowers her bow, but she's running out of time to shoot. Hyunseo and Grandpa watch in suspense, telling her through the TV to shoot. She lifts her bow again, but it's too late. The clock runs out. The announcers say her big weakness as an archer is that it takes her too long to make the shot. She can only hope for a bronze now. Hyunseo groans and covers her face. Grandpa's face has fallen, and he's murmuring that all she had to do was let go. You gotta trust yourself, girl.
Huh.
I need one.
H2O.
H2O no made it in.
I love it. This week, H2O sponsored the host monster.
It's H2O no.
I'm sorry.
H2O no runs through the river, and that's actually how the monster was created, not the
It's true.
formaldehyde.
Yeah. Can confirm.
Hyunseo exits the trailer, disappointed. She kicks a beer can and watches it hiss and leak. She doesn't see that no one is around. As she takes a few steps toward the can, the screams fade in. People are now visible from behind the trailer, running. Everything is moving slowly, dramatically. Her father grabs her wrist and pulls her along with him. The monster is climbing over cars, making its way towards them. They trip. Gongdu reaches back and grabs her hand, pulling her up. As he runs, he looks back at her, but it's not Hyunseo. It's another girl in the same uniform. The girl's father grabs her as he runs, shooting Gongdu a look as they pass.
He's like, get your own kid.
Yeah, he's like, what the fuck? And I'm like, he's just trying to help.
Yeah, I get it. In a moment of panic, you're not looking who you're grabbing.
Even so, like me, a woman with no child, if I'm in this situation and I see a kid on the ground, I might grab it
Yeah.
just to try to help.
Yeah, scoop that thing off and run.
Don't judge me for trying to help. Gongdu looks behind him, confused. The sound fades out as he lifts his arm and screams. He spotted Hyunseo getting up from the grass. The monster is running directly toward her. All we can hear are the thumps of its steps. As it passes her, it grabs her with its tail and yanks her along with it. It jumps from the top of the hill and back into the river amongst several swan paddle boats. Grandpa slowly opens the trailer door, having just noticed the chaos, his eyes wide and scared. Gongdu runs toward the river. He sees the monster swimming, Hyunseo still wrapped in its tail. He jumps into the river as his father screams after him. He doesn't make it far and treads water, watching the monster, who's made it to the other side already. It regurgitates the man it swallowed earlier, then swallows the unconscious Hyunseo whole. It grabs the second body with its tail and dives back into the water. Again, it is just like, I feel like the CGI was pretty good as far as grabbing her. You can see like when she's not a human person anymore, but this was really impactful for me the first time seeing it. I don't know why. We don't often see kids in danger like this in American movies.
Yeah, American movies would never.
And so watching it take her and then swallow her whole was the first inkling that I had that I was like, this is different.
I was shocked.
I think what kind of helps it along is that I don't want to say that it, acts real, because obviously, a big creature like this isn't the most realistic, but it acts just like an animal, right? Like, it's not malicious or like doing anything over dramatic. It's just a big dumb creature that wants to eat stuff, and you had the unfortunate luck to be in front of it.
I love the detail as well that it's scrambling around as it runs because it's clearly not used to being on land. So it plays into that as well. This is just an animal, essentially, that is probably just hungry and doesn't know what it's doing and just saw people and was like, well, the things that I've been eating before aren't doing it anymore. It's probably hungry. And so it's just running around being an animal.
You know, in some ways, I relate to this creature. I am also a big dumb creature who just wants to eat and doesn't know what she's doing.
And isn't great on her feet.
Yes.
Unused to land traversal.
Exactly.
No, like anything that this thing does throughout this movie, like a big crocodile would be, similar behavior. So it's like if you just swap it out with that, like it would be, almost identical. And so I think that's really helps the kind of suspension of disbelief with the CGI, at least for me.
Cut to Gongdu in the trailer, staring, completely out of it. A man knocks and tells him they have 10 minutes to evacuate the area. He's holding the cup of change that he'd saved for Hyunseo. The military take over the area. Everyone is forced to leave as trucks drive in and the area is blocked off. We cut to a public memorial. I don't know what kind of space this is, like maybe a town hall or something, but it kind of just looks like a big school auditorium. There's a large table with funeral portraits with ribbons and white flowers everywhere. It looks like around 50 people died. People are sobbing, crying. We follow Namju as she enters and first sees her father, then Hyunseo's portrait. She pulls the bronze medal out of her pocket and walks up to the portrait. Hyunseo is so cute in this picture. She has this giant smile on her face. And then just another thing that I was like, this really differs from American movies is her teeth are super crooked.
Yes.
It's so real. It just makes her endearing. And yeah, they had never cast that in an American movie. It has to be cute little girls with perfect eyes and perfect teeth. Gongdu and his father tell Hyunseo that her aunt has brought her a bronze medal. Namju collapses on the table, sobbing and grabbing at the portrait. Their father is wailing as well. Nam-il, their alcoholic brother, enters and pushes Gong-do out of the way, as he's now the one collapsed on the table and blocking the portrait. He looks into Hyunseo's eyes and puts his beer next to it. Gong-do wails to Hyunseo that her uncle came as well. Their father wails that thanks to her, they're all together again. At this point, at first, seeing all of them cry is really heartbreaking, but this is the moment where it starts getting a little ridiculous, a little comedic.
Yes, I was like, no way they are reacting this over the top for her.
It's like when I saw Namju, I was like, oh my god, my heart. And then all of a sudden, they're all just like,
They're rolling around on the floor,
Yeah,
just wailing.
I have never gone from like starting to tear up a little bit and getting emotional to pure confusion.
And this is like something Bong Joon-ho does so well. He has comedic elements in all of his movies that I've seen, and it relieves tension, but also is just highlighting that
These are just
people
people.
are ridiculous. The way we react to situations and what we're going to do often borders on ridiculous. And so he's highlighting it to an extreme, in my opinion. So it can be like, if you're in a situation like this, think about what you're doing, because it might not make as much sense as you think it does. It might actually be pretty funny if you look at it from an outside lens.
I don't know, next time something devastating happens to me, I might react this way.
You can do that well. This could be freeing for you to be like, Bong Joon-ho gets it.
Yeah.
He knows I need to flop on the floor.
Only 9 nuggies instead of 10. Here I go.
So the four of them are grabbing onto each other. They fall to the floor. They're just a mess of crying, wailing, flailing limbs. The men are crawling all over each other like they're gonna wrestle or something. The paparazzi even gather around them taking photos. Nam-il yells at them to fuck off. A security guard yells at a woman for parking her car badly. As all of this is going on.
It is good to know that their paparazzi is just as bad as ours.
Yes, absolutely. I loved the security guard. He could not care less. He's just like, why did you park there? And this woman just like runs to go move her car.
I'm sorry, somebody I love just died, but let me go move my car.
The sign said 15 minutes.
Oh.
Nam-il tells off Gongdu for grabbing the wrong girl at the park. He hits and flop kicks him. Like he literally like gets up trying to get up to kick him and just ends up flopping on his side on the ground. It's incredible.
Small fun fact about that scene, him kicking was completely improvised.
Oh my god. So he really
Makes it
fell.
better.
That's incredible. That is dedication, and I hope it was fun.
It looked fun.
So he tries to kick him while his father is trying to wrestle him to the ground. Namju joins the fray to keep Gongdu back. Some men finally arrive to break them up and quiet down. The portrait looks on, watching it all. Hyunseo's smiling face. We cut to Namju commenting on how beautiful Hyunseo looks in the photo. Her dad comments that she looks like her mother. He reveals to us that immediately after giving birth, her mother left her with Gongdu and ran off 13 years ago. Nam-il comments he'd run away too, kicking at Gongdu, who is asleep on the ground. Their dad tells him to knock it off, and they watch in disgust as Gongdu sleepily scratches his groin under his sweatpants in
He
public.
can sleep anywhere.
Anywhere. I'm impressed a little bit.
I definitely am.
So from here on out, I was kind of switching off between grandpa and dad, but the three siblings, their dad, I'm just going to refer to him as dad now. Yes, he has a name, but I don't know. They don't really call him that. They call him dad, so he's dad in my script. Dad says Hyunseo's birth was an accident, and so was her death. He believes it is their duty to kill the monster that did this. He won't rest until he slit open its belly to find her. A man dressed in a yellow hazmat suit enters. He slips and falls on the ground, but jumps up quickly, trying to look like it didn't happen. And so the metaphor of an incompetent government begins.
We love to see it.
And so this is another point I wanted to bring up with why I am so consistently impressed with this movie. So we all know the three classic plot lines of a movie. You have man versus nature, man versus man, and man versus himself. And in this moment, it becomes apparent that all three of these elements are in this movie. Man versus nature, because we know that the monster is just a mutated animal. It is not acting maliciously. It is just a byproduct of its environment. Man versus man. Now we have this family that's going to be dealing with the government, which is going to fail them and cause them
And
problems.
not just the government, but each other and friends and people they come along the way trying to get her back.
Yeah, and so then that kind of plays into man versus himself. They are all so incompetent. They're not able to talk to, not able to get along enough. So to me, the man versus himself is the whole family really combating with themselves to be able to do what they want to do and defeat this monster, and they just can't get their shit together. So, yeah, all three elements are present in this movie, and in a way that no conflict draws too much away from the other conflicts. They are all important. They all share moving the movie along equally, and it is incredible. I don't think that balance is easy to pull off.
It can't be. He just does it so well.
All right, so back to our hazmat man. He starts speaking over a megaphone to the crowd, saying it's a matter of life and death. He asks who was at the river scene with a hilarious little flourish of his hand. He's like, raise your hand. The crowd stares. He asks again, saying they shouldn't hide it, and then repeats that flourish. He's like, don't hide it, you guys. Who was at the scene?
I would probably raise my hand even if I wasn't there.
And the rest of the family is only Namil is like pushing Gongdu's hand down. Yeah, so as everyone is starting to raise their hands, Nam-il stands and demands the man explain what's going on. The man stammers that the news should be covering it now and turns on a TV to find it. But the report hasn't started yet. He just continues that, well, now they're under their control now. And as he speaks, more hazmat-clad people enter and a haze of chemical disinfectant starts to billow in like a fog machine. People begin to get freaked out as he tells them to start moving towards buses outside. He asks for order, but the people are scrambling and the workers are just pushing them around. Namil shakes one off. The dad tries to bow out of politeness and the worker bows back, but then just points outside. The man with the megaphone asks if anyone had direct contact with the creature. Gongdu admits that blood sprayed in his face. The man immediately points and yells for the others to grab that man, while also asking everyone to remain calm. The men drag Gongdu into a biohazard body bag and then drag him away, his family following. Amongst the chaos and on the buses, the news coverage finally starts. They say the creature is even more dangerous than it seemed. Donald was an army sergeant. He lost an arm in the attack and is being treated by an American army hospital, who have identified a new virus on parts of his body that came in contact with the monster. Details are being withheld by the US government. The CDC has confirmed that the monster is the host of this mystery virus. We see images of fumigation trucks and boats spraying clouds of disinfectants over the river and surrounding areas. Only units that specialize in biological warfare are allowed in the area, and efforts to kill the monster have been stopped until the virus can be contained. Cut to the family at the hospital. Gongdu is sitting in his biohazard bag, but it's unzipped now. Dad is complaining about how they dragged everyone here, but now nothing's happening. Namju notes that the doctors aren't even wearing masks. So now that we are post 2020, we have a new appreciation of mask wearing during times of public health crisis.
Mask wearing and social distancing,
Yes.
which they are not distancing themselves from him at all.
No, but I was going to say, so that was masking was already a concept in South Korea. So we are going to start seeing civilians masking. And so it's very telling and plays into the metaphor when we see doctors and nurses not wearing their PPE properly, but the civilians are. So the people want to do what's right, and are doing what they know how to do to stop the virus from spreading. But people higher up the chain don't care.
That's interesting.
Dad stops a doctor to ask when they can go back home. The reply is simply, "You can't." Gongdu wonders if he's dying. He says his back feels itchy and weird. His dad brushes it off. More numbers are called out, but not any of theirs. Dad encourages Gongdu not to tell anyone else about the blood. But then that doctor comes back and tells them that Gongdu will have to have a lot of tests run the next day, so he can't eat anything. Immediately cut to that night, Gongdu is stealing food.
Relatable.
He is dressed in hospital pajamas, and we see him in a large room filled with beds of sleeping patients. His father is in the bed next to him. He opens a can of, I looked it up, it is sea snail. It looks really gross and slimy.
I've only had snail once, and I don't think I would just eat it straight from a can. I don't think I could.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
I guess so.
You know that Gongdu is thinking, oh my god, I'm going to die without food. That's just the kind of person he is. The sound of the can nearly wakes his father, but it doesn't. He eats the snails and scratches at his back. Suddenly his phone rings. He picks it up. Staticky and faint, Hyunseo's voice calls out from the other line. She says her battery is almost dead. She's in some kind of really big sewer and can't get out. Gongdu is stunned, trying to ask questions, but none of them are actually useful, like, "You're alive? And where?" Hyunseo tells him she's scared and they need to come quick. Then the call drops. The rest of the family is awake now. They stare at him. We see that in the room, there are machines spraying the disinfectant. Cut to a disinfectant fumigation truck driving down a road bordering the river. It stops, and a worker is asking his partner, "Did you see that?" He exits the truck and goes to look at something at the edge of the road. It's some money! Hell yeah. He picks it up while his partner warns not to go near the water. He looks out on the river, but doesn't see anything. They start making their way back to the truck when the monster swings down on its tail from above, knocking the first worker over. As it swings back, it crushes the truck. We see the monster swimming into the sewers with its new catch. One man in its mouth, an arm hanging out, and then one in its tail. It lowers them into a concrete pit, setting them down. It runs its tongue along one of the men's faces, then climbs out of the pit. I'm gonna do my best to describe this space.
The pit. Oh, the face.
I said space.
Oh,
The pit.
the
I
pit.
fell in it. The pit. You fell in it. The pit.
Describe us the pit.
So this is a large space. I'm going to do a lot of guesstimating here, something that I'm not very good at. So it's long enough for the monster to get around in, and we know the monster is roughly 30 feet long, so I would say that makes the pit roughly 60 feet long, maybe. It doesn't have a lot of room. Width-wise, it's very short, maybe 8 feet. Some of the bodies that are laying out would barely have any room if they were fully stretched on the floor, so I'm guessing 8 feet. The walls are flat and they go straight up. So there's no chance to climb out, and it's very tall. Again, judging by the size of the men, guessing that they are around 6 feet, maybe. The walls are maybe 18 feet high. So yeah, you're not going to be able to jump or climb. There's no footholds or handholds. Everything is concrete. Along the top of the pit, there is this grading walkway that partially covers one side. So someone on the top, like if there's a worker in the sewers, would be able to walk on, but there's no access into it unless they brought a ladder or a rope or something. In one side of the walls, there's a round hole, perhaps where a large pipe had been. It doesn't lead anywhere. It cuts off on a dead end. As we pan out to see the room, we see Hyunseo crawl out of the hole. She's filthy, covered in black mud. She tries to help one of the workers who's still alive, but he coughs out some liquid and dies. We see her in the hole. It's barely large enough for her to sit in, but it goes back a couple of feet so that she would be able to stay out of danger. She searches the men and finds a cell phone, but it's broken. She looks around, but there is no way out of her prison. Cut to a police officer reading Hyunseo's information. He says she's on the deceased list. Gongdu is trying to explain, but He isn't very good at it. He says she's deceased, but she's not dead. The officer smiles condescendingly. Nam-il tells Gongdu to shut up and tries to explain. There's a phone call, so they can trace it. The officer says they don't do that for just anyone. It's very complicated. Dad pushes Nam-il away and tries to bribe the officer, who refuses it. He tells Gongdu the call didn't happen. He dreamt it. Namju steps forward, touching him to get his attention, and asks if he doesn't believe what they said. He threatens her, saying she's obstructing an officer. Gongdu tries again, and the officer says it's ridiculous. Namil cuts in again, but Gongdu tells everyone to shut up. He pulls out his phone and explains, this is Hyunseo. He's the monster, and he ate her. He puts the phone in his mouth to carry it and demonstrate. But then he spits it out in a trash can, saying, this is a sewer. That's how it happened. The officer asks the doctor if Gongdu is receiving psychological treatment. The doctor says he's just in shock. They should be understanding. The officer leaves despite Gongdu's protesting. Dad is trying to think of anyone else he can ask for help. He asks Namil if his college degree will help. Namil gets angry, asking what his degree would be good for. The dad is angry, saying he put Namil through school selling cup noodles, but Namju cuts him off, asking when he thinks the last time Hyunseo ate was. So it is important to point out the college degree because this is a time, I don't know too much about the situation in South Korea at the time, but there was a lot of people who couldn't get jobs. And I mean, it happened in America too. You send all these kids off, tell them they need college degrees to get jobs. They go and they get their college degrees, and then the job market is flooded, and we all end up at Starbucks.
Yay.
So, I mean, we've pointed out before, this is a political movie, and this is just another element that Bong Joon-Ho is calling, hey, guess what? This is fucked up.
No way around it.
Cut to the family walking down the busy hospital corridor. A nurse calls out, hey, Blondie, stop. The family takes off, and some nurses pursue them. They get into an elevator and pull off their hospital pajamas and get back into their other clothes. The dad calls someone to say they're on their way down. The kids, I know they're adults, but I'm going to call them kids because they act like kids.
They are his kids, so it fits.
They ask where their ride is. He says, B4, A3. And so we begin a delightful chase scene. There is loud, jaunty music playing. It is just, this is ridiculous. This is more comedy, and I love this scene.
It was great. It was a nice break from the seriousness.
So they burst out of the elevator into the parking garage looking for B4A3. They run up to a van as doctors and nurses run after them. The men make it into the van, which starts leaving, but then they realize Namju isn't there. They look around and see her amongst the cars. She shyly raises her hand and starts walking towards them like this isn't an escape sequence.
Makes me think she's a middle child.
Probably. Dad slaps the boys upside the head and asks how they could leave without their sister. They complain that she's always been too slow. They go to pick her up and she's walking until Namil grabs her and pushes her into the van. The officer is walking towards them, trying to reason. Namil takes 2 steps towards him like he's going to talk and then books it back into the van. The officer runs and catches the door, yelling but smiling that they need to go back until Gongdu pushes him by the face and he falls. The officer chases as the van goes round and round the parking structure to get out. Cut to a group of men giving Dad the total for pickup and his items. These clearly aren't good guys. They charge extra for the chase and threaten Dad with a knife for a total of $11,400. This has been translated in the subtitles, so it is 11,000 US dollars that they're asking for.
Thank you for making it easy on us.
Thank you, subtitles people, because I am no good at what is it?
Conversion?
Won?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I'm no good at conversion. You would have to convert it and then put it into a like inflation calculator.
Oh, yeah.
I have no idea how much $11,400 was in 2006, and I don't want to know because I'm sure I will be horrified since that wasn't that long ago, but things have drastically changed. Dad doesn't have that much cash on him, so they simply take his wallet and tell him at the fumigation truck outside that he can take. In the van, there's a small TV, and the news is sharing the family's information as fugitives. Nam-il jokes, ooh, Gongdu on TV. Gongdu asks if they can tape it so that they can show Hyunseo. A woman with a disguised voice is calling Gongdu an idiot who pushed her. Namju has been identified as the bronze medal archer. Namil wonders why there's nothing about him. Namju says, well, there's nothing special about him. He pouts that he's just another unemployed college graduate that no one will hire. The news goes on that Korea is being criticized for not adequately quarantining the infected, and there's footage of Namju shaking hands with someone at her competition. But that happened before the attack, so
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. It's like, get your facts straight.
Suspicious.
She was never there in the first place, and then yeah, she wouldn't have been a carrier of anything until after she met up with her family.
Trying to make them a little scarier.
Anyway, Dad knocks on the van window and takes them to their new truck. Namel's complaining about the stuff they got. The guns are old, the map is terrible. It's just an aerial view with red circles where there should be sewers, and they only got 2 hazmat suits. They have no idea what Dad just went through. I was like, you ingrateful little fucks. He just got threatened with a knife.
Well, he didn't really, tell them.
And he should have.
I would have.
Been like, you shut up.
I almost got stabbed for you.
Gongdu and Dad are wearing the suits, which are gray, not yellow. They approach a guard post, and the other 2 hide under a blanket. Gongdu hides his blonde hair with the hood of the hazmat suit. They're barely stopped before being waved through. Namil wonders why they even bother. Finally, they are stopped by a more important-looking man who peers in before indicating to roll down the window. He stares at Gongdu before asking, Mr. Park? He asks him to lower his mask, and he does to show a little bit of his nose and then puts it right back up. The man looks at the truck and says that it's a real truck, but are they real workers? Dad says, yes, but they're a different team. The man reveals himself to be a manager with the district office. They should know who he is. He then starts ranting about how their company barged in to take fumigation shifts. Trucks behind them start honking. This was a really weird moment. I have no idea what this guy was getting at.
I think he was saying he was onto them, onto the act that they were putting on.
But then why complain about the company? They don't know anything about the company.
Well, sometimes you need a stranger's ear.
I guess that's true.
They're not going to turn around and snitch on them.
I recognize your fraud, and also my job is terrible.
Exactly.
Dad gets an idea and reaches to take something from Gongdu. They wrestle for a moment while the manager looks before Dad grabs the black plastic bag that Gongdu was hiding and hands it to him through the window, saying, sorry, this is all I have at the moment. See you later. They drive off, and the manager looks in the bag. It's the cup of change for Hyun Seo's new cell phone.
That's so sad.
It was so sad, but also so funny. Can you imagine being a public official with a bowl of change? Like, what the fuck?
What am I going to do with this?
Just someone comes along. Is that a bribe? I don't know.
I'm still confused about it.
I think it was an attempt.
He looks back at the truck, but doesn't stop them. They drive through a tunnel of disinfectants and reach the river at last. I have to take a moment to point out the score here because the music is gorgeous. It's giving like a Miyazaki movie, but with more tension. And it sounds like an adventure, but a dangerous one. We see shots of each of them searching through the sewers, looking for Hyunseo. The men have guns. Namju has her bow. They travel through tunnels, flooded, dry, tight, wide. Namil falls out of a pipe at one point. Between sewers, we see them drive the truck with the disinfectant spraying. We see Gongdu jogging through the mist of it at one point, and when Nam-il asks why, Dad replies that he wants to protect Hyunseo from the virus when they find her. She's been in the monster's mouth, so I think she is probably in the most danger of getting the virus, but, it's still a sweet gesture.
Yeah, there's a thought that counts.
Nam-il wonders why anyone is talking about a virus at all. They've all been fine. Dad replies that if the government says it's real, they have to believe it. In the sewers, Gongdu complains about being tired. Namil hounds him if there's any other information he has because they aren't having any luck searching. Gongdu just says, it's a big sewer and they're in one right now. Namju tells him to stop complaining and he calls her a tortoise. Dad freezes and tells them to stop. He's staring at something in the darkness. Gongdu shines his light in another direction, calling to Hyunseo like he saw something too. Dad tells him to turn it off. Nam-il points in yet another direction into the dark, saying something moved. They ready their guns, staring into the dark. Gongdu focuses back on where he was looking before. Suddenly, Namju makes a noise in surprise. Something dripped on her. She looks up in horror and the men shoot. There's nothing there. It was just water. Namju apologizes to their dad. From where Gongdu had been looking, we see two boys are hiding. One looks to be in his teens, maybe about 16. I'm bad at guesstimating. The other one is young, maybe 8, and is riding on his back. This little boy's name is Seju, and I'm going to start calling him that to save time. We don't learn it for a little bit, but we'll learn it soon, so I'm just going to start saying his name now. Also, they are the two from the beginning of the movie when the little boy is steal food from the food stand while Gongdu is sleeping. These are the same
Didn't
two
put that
boys.
together.
It's them, yeah. The older boy whispers, "Did you pee?" Seiju says the bang scared him, so just a little. The teen wonders why they're shooting around here. We follow the boys through a tunnel to the Han River. The boys travel down the river and dodge a passing car. The teen muses that it's hard to make a living. Seiju asks if they have to go, but the teen asks, "Well, you're hungry, aren't you?" Seiju says yes. If they do this, they'll be able to eat for a month, the teen says. We see them sneak into the food stand trailer. The boys are filling their bags with food. Seiju finds some money and gets excited, but the teen tells him to put it back. That's stealing. Seiju doesn't see the difference. They're stealing anyways. The teen says that this isn't theft. They're doing seori, like melon seori at a farm. Back outside, the teen asks if Seiju knows what seori is. He shakes his head. Teen explains it's an old borrowing game for hungry kids. So I did look this up a little bit because it's something that I feel like I had a vague like context clues knowledge of, but I wanted to make sure I got it right. And so basically in like rural areas where there are a lot of farms around, it's pretty common for kids to go and get a snack from said farms. They mention melon specifically here because melon is like the most popular food that kids will steal. And it has its own word separate from stealing because there is an understanding of we're only taking what we're going to eat, and it is still like not something you're supposed to do. Like if they get caught, they'll be scolded, but it's really treated generally as more of like a kid's prank than anything else. So farmers in these rural areas are used to kids doing this kind of thing. When they catch kids doing it, they're just going to yell at them, maybe give them a slap upside the head, depending, on where they are and if that's acceptable.
Beat the kid down for taking a melon.
But yeah, it has its own name because it's something that commonly happens and is considered different than blatant stealing.
That's interesting. Cool concept.
The boys pause, seeing something under the bridge. It's the monster's tail, wiggling around. The tail wraps around a pole and the monster swings out. It grabs the underside of the bridge and then swings its tail. It follows this acrobatic motion to swing over to them. I thought it was kind of cool that the monster is like really figured out how to move well to get around, since it is clearly not that graceful on just its feet. It really likes using its tail.
Kinda smart.
It was not the way I was expecting it to ambush people, was gymnastics.
Pulling out the Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. It was neat.
The boys run back towards the food stand, but the monster is gaining. We see the doorknob rattle and open, but it's the Park family, so we didn't get to see what happened to the boys. The family enters the trailer and they don't seem to notice or care about the theft. They grab food, exhausted. They sit around a small table where they've piled various snacks and they each have a cup noodle. We get a shot of them all sitting, staring at their cups, looking completely out of it, when all of them open them up at the same time and start eating. To me, it felt like since they own this stand, they have mastered the art of knowing when your instant noodles are done.
It's a good skill to have.
Just an internal clock, be like, now.
Yeah.
And time. At first glance, I thought it was like a silent prayer, because that's kind of what it looked like for a second, because they all kind of have their heads down for a little bit, and then they all look up and start eating. But actually, yeah, I think you're probably right. I think they were just counting 2 minutes in their head.
They don't feel like a particularly religious family, but maybe they are religious towards the instant noodle gods. We watch them dig in, and a hand suddenly rises from behind Gongdu. Hyunseo pushes herself up. She's just as she was when they lost her, hair in place, not dirty. She reaches for some food. Gongdu notices her first and feeds her more. Namju brushes her hair out of her ear. The family takes turns giving her food and affection, but no one says a word. This scene didn't make a lot of sense to me the first time I saw it. I think that the movies we're used to, American films, hand feed you a lot of information. They don't want you to have to figure things out yourself. And that is not the case in a lot of Asian films. And so every time I watch this movie, this scene really sticks out to me because there is no explanation. And to me, what it means is just that we know that the family is doing all of this for her, but in a larger sense, she is never not on their minds, even when they're resting, even when they're exhausted. They are thinking of her, they are wishing she was there, and they want to take care of her. And so it's not like they actually think that this is happening. In fact, I think this is just a visual representation. It's not like they are reaching for nothing or feeding nothing. This is just for us to see that in their hearts they wish in this moment.
Yeah, I was a little scared at first, just like the way her hand came out, and I was like, "Oh, what is that?"
It
And
is a
then
little creepy.
and then I was confused. I was like, "Is she actually there?" Like she's picking stuff up, she's interacting with the food and her family. But yeah, they really do love this kid.
I do think it is meant to be jarring when she first shows up because you're just thrown off. But yeah, you're supposed to figure out pretty quickly like this isn't really happening. This is either something that they are seeing or something that they are imagining. And it's just, yeah, it's very sweet. It breaks your heart a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
We cut back to the pit where the real Hyunseo is squatting with her hand up, collecting dripping water in it. She looks miserable. She slowly dips a finger in the water in her hand and then puts it in her mouth. She hears the monster growling and approaching and then drops to the floor. She covers her mouth as the monster touches her with its tongue. It then drops two new bodies and leaves. Hyunseo shakes Seju and he wakes, coughing. She shakes the teen too, but no response. Hearing the monster again, Hyunseo grabs Seju and lays back down, covering his eyes. She reaches up and puts her finger under the nose of the teen to check for breathing. Nothing. She keeps holding Seju.
It seemed to me like the monster knew she was alive and was dropping these bodies down here for her to eat because she sees that this kid is small and the creature rather, was once also small and ate a lot and got big fast. That's kind of what I felt at first. And then
Interesting.
later on we see, what we see.
Yeah, I personally never got that vibe. I got the vibe that this was its version of the fridge. I do feel like there's evidence later that we'll get to that Mister knows that she is alive and doesn't really care because it knows she can't get out. But regardless, it is just leaving stuff there. Back in the stand, Namil is making fun of Gangdu for sleeping again. They're in the middle of packing up to leave to resume the search. Dad tells him to leave him alone, let him sleep. Namil thinks he's useless. Maybe they should just leave him here. Dad tells them to sit down. They slowly do. He asks if Gangdu is really so pathetic to them. The other two nod yes, like immediately, no thought.
No hesitation.
They're like, yeah. Dad starts to explain that as a kid, Gangdu was very smart. Strangers even asked him for directions. That's how smart he looked. But when he was young, the dad wasn't a good father. He often didn't come home. Gangdu had no mother to take care of him. He was probably so hungry. He'd have to feed himself with seori on farms, but would get beat up if he got caught. The other two are starting to look bored. Dad says Gangdu lacked protein, so it affected his growth. Now he needs to sleep a lot, and his brain might be underdeveloped. Nam-il is falling asleep at this point. The other two really don't care.
It made me wonder if the dad is not telling the truth, is just telling like a made up story about Gangdu to kind of get the other two to relax a little bit. But there could be truth in what the dad says too.
I personally assumed he was telling the truth,
Mm-hmm.
and to me explained why he does put up with Gongdu, because I was like, I don't know if I would be able to handle my adult
Yeah, no.
son sleeping on the job. But who knows? It could be an exaggeration or just an excuse to get the other kids to be
Yeah,
nicer.
and he just kind of keeps talking, even though he does glance back and see that they're not entirely paying attention.
Yeah, he just keeps going. At this point, I kind of assumed he was talking more for himself than anyone else. Dad is saying that the heartbreak of a parent can be heard for miles. He points to Gongdu. Nam-il and Namju are clearly not listening. They are dozing, but Dad continues his plea for them to be kind to Gongdu. He says they shouldn't criticize him so much. He says he spends so much time with Gongdu that he can even tell from his farts if he's in good shape or not. That's parental love.
I mean, they do say that the stinkier they are, the healthier your gut is.
I was unaware.
That's what I've been told.
But yeah, at this point, Tad's just kind of mumbling to himself because he's feeling all this guilt, probably about both Gongdu and Hyunseo. And then he realizes that Gongdu is awake and staring out the window. He murmurs, "It's watching." Dad turns to look too. The monster is outside in the rain. It has its head lifted up, its mouth completely open with its tongue stretched out. Dad slowly grabs his gun and points it out the window. Gongdu tells him to fire, and he does. The monster is immediately upon them. It tips the trailer over on its side. It stares down at them through the window, and Dad takes aim. He shoots it through the mouth. The family climbs out of the trailer with their weapons. The monster is wounded, but breathing, laying in the grass. Dad is wondering what's going on, and tells them to be quiet. At this point, I would think they would keep the monster alive so that they could follow it back to its hiding place.
You would think that would be the smart thing to do.
They do not do this.
They are not smart.
Nam-il shoots at it again. It jumps up and starts running. Dad yells not to get close, and they chase after it, shooting. They aren't very good shots. They probably have never touched guns before this because it's harder to get access to guns in South Korea. So I'm not blaming them, but they're not doing so hot. The monster climbs a bridge and starts swinging away from them. Nam-il and Dad run out of bullets. Gongdu fires off a few, but they all miss. The military has noticed them, and they start to make their way. The monster drops into the river like it did the first time they saw it. Dad tells them to get to the truck. He asks if anyone has any bullets. He wants to finish the monster off himself. Gongdu hands him his gun, saying he has one left. He asks Dad to come with them, but he says not to worry about him. They share a look. I don't entirely know what this look says, but it is an understanding between father and son, Dad being like, "I'm gonna do this, but I need you to be safe." That's how I read it.
Yeah.
Arrows start to hit the water. Namju is shooting at the monster. Dad yells for someone to get her. Nam-il tells her to stop playing around and drags her away. The monster emerges from the river behind Dad. He whirls around to face it and confidently pulls the trigger. An empty click. Gongdu is counting on his fingers. There were no bullets left. Dad turns to see his children one last time. He lifts an arm and makes a shooing motion for them to leave, and the monster hits him, knocking him to the floor. It wraps its tail around his leg and starts dragging him. Namju screams as the monster lifts Dad in an arc overhead, slamming him down on the pavement. We don't see impact. It's covered by bushes, but the imagery of him flying through the air was very powerful for me. The kids are horrified. The monster growls and jumps back in the river. Gongdu goes to his father, whose body is pouring blood into the rain. He cradles him and asks him to get up, but he doesn't respond. Gongdu tells his siblings to leave. They can't all get caught. The military is approaching. Nam-il and Namju take off. Gongdu covers his father's face with a piece of newspaper and starts to leave, but he can't. He goes back to his father's body and is captured by the military. They radio that the infected family has been found. One captured, one dead. They cover Gongdu's face with a bag, and it cuts to black.
I was a little upset with him in this moment. You know, you have Dad saying, "Get out of here," and then you
And
just,
he doesn't listen.
just squander the sacrifice.
On the one hand, it is touching because he was like calling his dad a geezer before and not respecting him. And this shows that he really did actually love his dad. But yeah, on the other hand, you're exactly right. He did not do the last thing his father wanted. So he just like let him down to the very end.
Yeah, you know, one final disrespect.
We see a news report. Donald has died, and the reporters say his heroic actions revealed the existence of the virus to the world. I was like, okay, what?
Yeah. Oh, who cares?
Maybe you just shouldn't have gotten a virus in the first place. I don't know.
Yeah, it's your fault, Donald.
But I also noted that he died at 4:20 like a good American. Blaze it,
Doing
Donald.
his civil duty.
The US and World Health Organization are apparently blaming Korea for not catching the other two members of the infected family or the monster itself. So now they will directly intervene and use a chemical development system called Agent Yellow to combat the virus.
That doesn't sound familiar at all.
No! What are you talking about? Never heard anything like that before.
No,
Completely harmless.
we've never used anything like that.
It was developed by the US to fight virus outbreaks and biological terrorists. It kills all biological agents within a radius of dozens of kilometers once deployed. We see everyday citizens standing in a crosswalk in the rain, all wearing masks, reading news updates on a billboard. One says the activists are rising to protest Agent Yellow as unsafe. Another says the virus carrier Park, Gong-do as we know him, is showing symptoms similar to the common cold. A man amongst them is coughing. People start to back away from him. He hacks up some phlegm and removes his mask to spit it into the street. In the next moment, a truck drives by and splashes up the gutter water from where he spat, spraying the group of people. They yell and scream and scramble away in fear.
I would too.
Yeah, even without a virus, I'd be like, oh, gross, what the fuck?
Yeah, nasty.
But it is just showing how everyday people are now being very vigilant, very aware of this situation going on.
Taking it very seriously.
Cut to Nam-il riding a crowded bus. All the passengers are masked. A radio is playing an interview of a nurse saying they are trying to make sure Gong-do is comfortable. Nam-il looks out the window. His face is hard to read. We see him approach a large office building. He's hiding his face from passerbys. He waits outside a dry cleaning store in the shadows. He looks at a wanted poster of his family. He looks really sad. He's staring at the picture of his father on the poster. He moves to rip down the poster, slowly peeling it, when someone else comes out of the shadows and grabs him. It's a friend, who assures him he wasn't followed and asks where Namju is. He isn't sure. They haven't been traveling together. The friend steals a suit from outside the dry cleaning store for Nam-il. This friend does not get named in the movie, so I'm just going to call him the friend, just to let you know. The two enter the office. The friend is explaining that they can access a computer that can tell them where the closest transmitter to Hyunseo's call is. Since she called late at night, it should be easy to get the info and she'll be within 200 meters of said transmitter. It's so simple, different from what they were told by the cop earlier. The friend tells Nam-il he should have come to him sooner and asks if the family is always so dumb. If only he knew.
Short answer, yes.
Yes. All in their own special way.
Mm-hmm.
Nam-il regrets spending so much time searching the sewers with no clues, but the friend assures him that finding her is just a matter of time now. Nam-il asks how his friend managed to get this job when he spent so much time in school protesting. He replies he's just a salaryman. Nam-il says, but he must be making, 60, 70K a year? He replies that his credit card debt is that much. It ain't easy out there for
For a salary man?
us adults.
No, it's not.
The two crowd around a laptop. They've located Hyunseo's call. The password the friend has doesn't work, so he makes his way to the manager's office. Before he enters, he asks about Namju again. Shouldn't Nam-il be worried about her? He reveals that after they left the river that day, they parted ways in the sewer. He's sure she's fine. The friend enters the manager's office, which is filled with men trying to capture the family. He asks what they should do. Namju will be hard to find. They decide to capture Nam-il first. He warns that Nam-il is an escape artist. Outside, Nam-il discovers the real password. He starts typing it in. Inside the office, the friend is asking the team about his reward money. There's no taxes on it. Yay! The men are preparing to make their move. I don't think this was the proper time to talk about this.
I mean, worrying about taxes is important. If there's a hefty tax on something, I'm gonna have to pass.
I mean,
It
it's
ain't worth it.
true. I want to know, but also, like, I've already set this up. I don't think you get the reward money if the person gets away, so I don't know.
I did like that one of the people trying to kidnap him, like, was also like, oh, I didn't know that wasn't tax. That's cool. Like, he's also learning this information.
It's really funny. The computer shows the location of the transmitter. Namil jumps up in excitement, just as the lights come on and the men begin to pour out of the office. They call to Nam-il that he should go to the hospital. He quickly marks the location of the transmitter on his map. She's at Wonhyo Bridge. The men begin to circle around him, asking him to stay right there. Nam-il puts a paper clip around a plug and then quickly plugs it into an outlet. This was so smart.
Oh, that was really smart. I didn't think that was going to work.
I wouldn't have thought of it in the first
Yeah.
place. The lights go dark and he drops. The men scatter looking for him. He's made it outside the office itself. The men are trapped now by a non-functional keypad lock. As Nam-il runs for the exit, he spots his friend through a window. He's on the phone, but lifts his fist in solidarity as Nam-il passes. This friendship is probably over, but I get the impression that this is the outcome the friend actually wanted. I mean, I get it. I need money too.
Yeah, these days, do almost anything for some money.
But also, like, I don't want my friend to get caught.
Yeah, God, no.
I hope he gets a little something anyways. Namil takes off down the street to a bridge, but police backup are starting to arrive on the scene. He isn't sure where to go. We see the men scramble around looking, then pan to the side of the bridge where the tips of Namil's fingers show that he's dangling out of view. He slips and falls, though. One of the men hears the thud and goes to investigate. Namil manages to roll into the shadows before he's seen. He's hurt, collapsing underneath the bridge. He pulls out his phone, but the call he makes to Namju goes to voicemail. He sends her a text message, Hyunseo, Wonhyo Bridge, and then promptly passes out. Cut to Namju waking up. She's dirty and disheveled. She was sleeping inside a bridge support over the Han River. We follow her as she continues her search of the sewers, at times even traveling in the river. She then visits the food stand for food and water and to charge her phone. She receives Nam-il's message. We follow Namju as she runs to her new destination. She's traveling on the underside of bridges, through fields, running across a shallow section of the river. The music swells with hope and anticipation. As she gets closer, she gets out her bow. She calls someone, saying that she's found it, a huge sewer under the north side of the Wonhyo Bridge. She gets cut off by the loud thumping sound of the monster running towards her. She pulls back her arrow to aim at the monster, which is running down the walkway straight for her, but she doesn't shoot in time. Her weakness. The monster crashes into her. Her bow flies through the air, and she tumbles into a small gap in the concrete. The monster tries to get at her, but the space is too small for it to fit, and she is out of reach. She is knocked out, and we hear a voice over the phone, calling to her, asking what happened. Cut to Gongdu, who was on the other line. A doctor takes the phone away from him. The hospital staff is wearing full PPE now, with suits, masks, and glasses. Gongdu asks where Wonhyo Bridge is. Wonhyo Bro.
The bridge.
The bridge! Gongdu asks where Wonhyo Bridge is. He says he needs to go. The doctor says he needs to get a shot. He asks what kind, and another replies an anesthetic. And then this is really funny. He just cautiously says, "Oh, okay, I'll get the shot, and then I need to go." Clearly doesn't know what that is. He sits, and they prepare him for the shot. I gotta say, there's so much air in that syringe. I'm pretty sure that's dangerous. You can't shoot
That's
air
very
into someone.
dangerous.
Yeah, it is like this comically large syringe filled with, it almost looked like a weird mix of fluid, just 90% air, which will kill you if you try to do that. Don't inject yourself with air.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't let anybody do that to you.
It's like one of the things I hate in movies is either there's air in the syringe or when they like draw up whatever they're drawing up in their syringe and then they push the air out and then they squirt out a little bit of liquid. I'm like, now your number's not accurate. You can't do that.
Yep.
I've medicated my cats enough times to know.
Especially when they like shoot out like a full stream and you're like, no, that's like a full 5 milliliters. What are you talking, you idiot?
Now you have to draw it again, and because you've already used this needle, now you need a new needle too. So Gongdu jumps up in distress, calling Hyunseo's name. The staff jumps him, about 5 people holding him down. He tries to tell them his daughter is under the bridge. They give him the shot while he's restrained, and 2 of the doctors muse on if the bridge is named after the monk Wonhyo. Nah, he wasn't a monk, he was a priest. Cut to 2 doctors watching through a plastic curtain. One asks if the right amount was injected. The other responds yes, but it's been an hour and Gongdu is still awake, mumbling and sitting up. They decide to start doing their tissue sampling anyway. Cut to Gongdu screaming as a large needle is taking samples from around his collarbone. They don't understand why he's awake and causing a scene. A new doctor enters the space. The others scramble to turn on equipment and adjust their PPE to look professional. It's an American doctor with a translator. They are wearing full hazmat suits. The American doctor asks what's going on here. He stops the sampling process and leans down to talk to Gong-do. He tells him that he's heard that his daughter is still alive. Gong-do looks up in disbelief that someone is listening. He says yes and explains her location. The doctor asks why he didn't call the police, the military, the news, something. Gong-do begins to cry and says that no one listens. He wails that he's a human too and his words matter. The American doctor takes his face in his hands, but then pulls down one of his eyelids to look in his eyes. He says to his translator, the virus has definitely infected his brain, as we suspected.
My heart breaks for him here.
It was so jarring because it's like, oh my god, somebody believes him, only for that to be snatched away immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole scene was rough.
Okay.
Also, this actor is really good too at just portraying an American being the villain.
Yeah, he gave off real, I wouldn't say creepy vibes, but I was a little creeped out by him.
He has, I forgot his name. I looked it up and I didn't write it down. I feel bad. But he is another actor with a long career, and one unique feature about him is that one of his eyes points in slightly inward, so he permanently has this almost cross-eyed look to him, and it does so many favors for this role because there is a sense of, can we take this guy seriously? But he's playing it very seriously. It's a very interesting character, to say the least.
Yes.
So they believe that the virus is in the frontal lobe since he's been showing signs of dementia when he never had mental problems before. The doctor declares that his brain is their last hope. The virus must be there. Gong-do asks to be let go, but no one listens. The translator doctor asks what he's talking about. Surprised he hasn't heard, the American doctor takes him aside and says this information is confidential. Even members of the team don't know. Donald had been given an extensive autopsy after he died, but no evidence of a virus was found. He actually died in surgery. Further, no evidence of a virus was found in any quarantine patient. There is no virus. Gong-do overhears this and asks what he means, no virus. The doctor stares him down. Cut to Gong-do strapped to an operating table. Our POV is above him looking down as doctors prepare him for the procedure. His head is clamped in a metal device to help measure and keep him still. He is crying and asks to be let go since the doctor just said there was no virus and he needs to get his daughter under the bridge. He starts cursing at them, then begging as they mark his forehead and ready a drill. He's going through all 5 of the stages of grief, rapid fire.
Real fast.
He's terrified as they move equipment into place. He cries, and no one listens. This scene is brutal to watch. It's so scary to imagine being in that situation. Yeah, back when I was a horror movie novice watching this, I remember just folding in on myself because I was like, forget the monster. This is the scariest thing I've ever seen.
It's very dehumanizing.
Yeah, because like he goes through like a little bit of anger of like trying to struggle and get out. He starts pleading, being like, "Hey, just let me go, please." And the whole time they're just screwing down things, clamping his head in this medical device.
No one says a word to him.
Yeah,
Doesn't tell him what's going on.
He is literally just a lab specimen to them.
everyone is clearly fine with the fact that the anesthesia didn't work and he's awake. They just go, "Oh, okay."
It's fine, we'll work through this.
Yeah, horrifying is the only word I can use to describe this scene. And yeah, every time I watch the movie, I hate watching it, but it's important. But I'm just like, this scene is burned into my memory because it is that. Ugh.
Mhm.
Cut to Hyunseo, once again analyzing their prison. She begins pulling at the jackets on the bodies around them. Seju is saying he wishes he could have some banana milk. To distract him, Hyunseo tells him to list 10 foods he wants. She can get some for him from their food stand. He exclaims that he wishes he could live in a food stand. She asks him what about his home, and he says he doesn't have one. All he had was his brother. He starts listing food, and she is able to say she has all of them. He is excited and asks if she eats instant noodles every day. She says no. Kids from Chinese restaurants don't eat dumplings every day. He asks what she wants the most. She responds, a beer. They are so cute.
They are really cute.
I hate that this is happening to them.
They don't deserve it.
The little look on his face as he's listing food. God. The two pull at what Hanseo has been working on, a rope of all the jackets she found tied together. On one end, she ties a police baton. Then they manage to throw it up onto the grating. The baton holds, but the end of the jacket is too high up for them to reach. Before she can try lifting Seju, they hear the monster coming back. They return to their hiding hole. The monster leans over the side of the pit, opening its mouth. Hyunseo wishes for a man with a working cell phone this time. The monster heaves, but all that comes up is a skull. It clatters on the ground as the kids watch in horror. The monster continues to vomit a pile of bones and sludge. They're from everyone it's eaten so far. At the end, the beer can that Gongdu had thrown into the river also falls amongst the bones. The can is pierced and hisses, spraying beer. I have to imagine that is just an extra slap in the face to Hyunseo, who just wanted a beer.
Big time.
Here, I brought you one.
Hyunseo pulls Seju back. The monster descends and eats Seju's brother. As she turns to check again, the monster has found them, its huge head taking up the whole entrance of their hiding hole. The kids scream, but they are able to get far enough back that it can't reach them. Cut to a large syringe of blood being drawn from Gongdu. They also take a bandage off his forehead, revealing a nasty-looking wound. He sits, in shock, not moving or speaking. The nurse who took his blood pokes at him, saying, "Hey?" He turns and suddenly grabs her. The other nurses and doctors look on as he holds the syringe full of his blood pointed at her. He threatens them, asking if they like viruses, and tells everyone to get down on the floor. They cower as he shoots a bit of blood at them. He orders one worker to open all the doors. As he steps outside into the light with his hostage, he sees police and military all having a barbecue outside. He's enraged and threatens everyone with the blood. He demands a car and drives away in an ambulance. Another slap in the face. Just a barbecue.
Just having a barbecue.
No big
Grand old
deal.
time. No monster, no virus. Nothing happening.
Nam-il wakes up under the bridge, in pain but okay. A man experiencing homelessness had watched over him. The man asks what Nam-il is doing, but he's completely out of it. He asks where the Wonhyo Bridge is. The man nonchalantly asks if he even knows where he is. He won't even give directions to the road, saying, "Figure it out himself." Nam-il pauses as he watches the man drink an almost empty bottle of soju. He kneels down and says he needs the bottles and starts collecting them, putting them in a backpack. He gives his wallet to the man, saying he'll pay him. The man looks at the wallet and then breaks a bottle over Nam-il's head, asking if he thinks money will buy him anything. Another hilarious moment out of nowhere.
So what are the cans for then?
Fucking breaks a bottle over his head, trusting he'll be fine. He takes the wallet and the backpack and then declares that he's bored anyways, so he'll go to the Wonhyo Bridge. Cut to inside a cab. The driver is nervously asking what they're doing in the back. The two now have a can of gas and are making Molotov cocktails. The man says no one uses these at demonstrations anymore, but Nam-il replies they're not for one. The driver tells them to get out, but Nam-il says he'll pay quadruple fare, so he lets them stay. He does say that it's going to be hard to get to the bridge. Demonstrators are gathering to protest Agent Yellow, which is going to be deployed today. A radio report is confirming this. Nam-il looks out in concern. Cut to Gongdu. He's arrived at the sewer. He screams for Hyunseo and rushes inside. Cut to Hyunseo, waking up in the hole. She is holding Seju, who isn't moving. She puts a finger under his nose and her eyes widen when she doesn't feel anything. She shakes him and he coughs and sputters. She sighs in relief, but Seju isn't in good shape. He says he's hungry and his nose is bleeding. He complains that he's hot. Hyunseo holds him close, then gets up. She has to act. She quietly leaves the hole and sees the monster. It's sleeping. Or at least it's breathing like it's sleeping, and its creepy, milky eyes don't have eyelids, so hard to say. She cautiously picks up the beer can and throws it at the monster. It hits its back and bounces off. The monster doesn't wake. Hyunseo tells Seju to stay and not come out no matter what. She'll be right back, and she's going to bring doctors, the police, the military, all of them. He asks to come too. Hyunseo eyes the rope hanging directly above the monster. She only nods at Seju and then runs. Across the room and up the monster's back, she leaps for the rope and manages to grab it. The baton holds and she swings in the air. She starts to climb, but then stops. Seju watches with his bloody nose. Hyunseo slowly lets go of the rope, but doesn't fall. We see now that she's being held by the monster's tail. It grabbed her to stop her. It gingerly places her back on the ground, and she looks over at the monster. It hasn't changed its breathing. It lets her go, and she's frozen. Seju is still staring. He pees his pants in fear. Hyunseo whispers to him to go back in the hole. He nods. A large spider crawls up Hyunseo's arm. She doesn't react. She can't. She slowly begins to shift her feet, preparing to run. The monster's eye flicks back to her, and she runs as it leaps after her. She grabs Seju and jumps into the hole, screaming, the monster jumping with its mandibles just about around them. But we cut before we can see what happens. That scene also freaked me the fuck out when I first watched the movie.
The scene of the mandibles.
Just it getting up and lunging for them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was aware the whole time, apparently. Ugh.
Yeah, that one had a lot of good tension in it.
Gongdu is wandering the sewers. He discovers the pit now full of bones where Hyunseo had been kept prisoner, even climbing down the jacket rope. He sobs as he reads a name tag with her name on a piece of clothes. We see the inside of the hole where the kids had been hiding. Only a rat is inside. Gongdu hears the monster growl above him, and as he looks, it leaps over one side of the pit to the other. Hyunseo's uniformed arm can be seen dangling from his mouth. Gongdu climbs back up the rope. Also in the sewer, Namju has awakened and climbed out of her hole. She grabs her bow, but hides as she sees the monster approach. It runs past her. She draws back her bow, but then sees Gongdu in pursuit. The monster reaches the river and stops, looking at the large crowd that is gathered on the other side. There are hundreds of people with signs protesting. And also some of those, like, car dealership wiggly airmen. I don't know how to
I-
describe them beyond that.
Wacky
The
inflatable
wacky
men.
inflatable R plate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was the first time I had seen one at a protest. It was an interesting move.
Yeah, I've never seen them used in this context.
It is very eye-catching, so
Mhm.
I think one of them says no virus on it.
I think they all say no virus.
No virus? Woo!
Yeah.
Namil exits his taxi with his new friend and rushes towards the protest. Gongdu runs along a bridge, yelling for Hyunseo as the monster swims in the river below him. We see the protest. Police are pushing back protesters with riot shields. An automated warning plays loudly, telling everyone to clear the area. A crane carrying the Agent Yellow device is advancing on them. The yellow device hangs like a teardrop shape. A few valves on it are hissing and spitting yellow dust. The shape of it eerily resembles the monster when it was hanging by its tail from the bridge. The metaphor is strong.
Yeah, the monster dangling.
It's like, guess what? There are two monsters. The other one, actually, in a way, they're both man-made, so.
They are both man-made.
The warning continues in Korean and English. One of the protesters notices the approaching monster. She takes out a camera, but the people around her begin to scream and run in panic. Gongdu begs the policemen that have begun to shoot to hold their fire. He leaps off the bridge. Namju screams as she watches him, and Nam-il catches up to them at that moment. The monster emerges from the water, advancing on the police. As the warning plays, the Agent Yellow can be fatal to children, pregnant women, and people with respiratory disorders. Someone hits the button. A cloud of brown falls, consuming the monster and billowing outwards. We hear the monster screeching. We see a group of protesters holding a sign to free, quote, Park Kong-do. It's pretty funny they couldn't even get his name
Couldn't spell
right.
it right.
Highlighting once again that even when you do have the intentions, make sure you're well educated. They stand in solidarity, but collapse in coughing as the chemicals overwhelm them. The monster is writhing on the ground, and a policeman shoots at it. Gongdu tackles and then kicks him, yelling that he told him to stop. He stares at the monster and then runs to it. He opens its mandibles and sees Hyunseo's hand clinging to a tooth, the rest of her body already down the throat. He grabs her hand and pulls her out. She's still holding Seju. Gongdu holds her and weeps. She doesn't respond. She doesn't breathe. Gongdu lifts her body and carries her away from the Agent Yellow device hanging ominously behind them. Namju and Nam-il see him. They are coughing and blood pours from Nam-il's ears. Another cloud of Agent Yellow is released on the monster. Gongdu turns to watch the monster scream, its skin hissing like it's burning. One of the fish in its back pops off and flops on the ground. The Agent Yellow workers look on as police and protesters vomit blood, collapse, have blood pour from their noses and ears. A lamenting ballad is playing as we watch this devastation. Namju cradles her niece. Nam-il throws himself on the ground to hug her as well. Gongdu watches and cries, then looks up. He grabs a sign like he did at his first confrontation with the monster, but this time he's stronger. He smashes the cement weight and breaks off the sign itself. He slashes at the monster with his new spear and its blood splatters on the pavement. Nam-il lights a Molotov cocktail and looks up in time to see Gong-do knocked down. He tosses a Molotov between the monster and his brother, and it backs away from the flames, screeching. Nam-il continues to throw, not able to hit his mark, but scaring the monster away. And it's just such a powerful image. We see his silhouette as he is arching his hand back, ready to throw. There's just clouds of brown around him from the chemical, and he's fighting, and it reminds me a lot of that photo from the Black Lives Matter protests where the man is throwing back the tear gas canister. It really gave me the feels.
Yeah, that was a really powerful image.
The monster turns to him, and we pan up to see Nam-il's new ally, who came along with him. He's creeping above the monster on a catwalk under the bridge with the gas can. He pours it over the side onto the monster, and it triggers a natural response. The monster opens its mouth wide, its tongue stretched out like we saw it in the rain before. It doesn't shy away from the gas, consuming and getting drenched in it. Nam-il prepares his last Molotov, throwing off his now empty backpack. As his hand arches to throw, though, the bottle slips and breaks on the ground behind him. He turns, his face nearly in tears. He utters a sound of agony. But Namju steps up. She pierces the burning rag from the Molotov with an arrow. She draws back her bow and aims, does not hesitate, and lets the arrow fly. It pierces the monster through the eye, and it erupts into flames. It's screaming, and Nam-il watches. His ally watches from above. Namju just turns and walks away. Her job is done. The monster looks to the river and begins to run toward it, mouth open as it continues to wail, but before it can get there, Gong-do steps out from behind a pillar. He brings up his spear and pierces the monster through its open mouth, sliding back from its momentum, but he does not stumble. His stance stays strong. Blood drips down the pole onto his hand. He releases his grip, the circle of the pole indented in his other palm from the force he used to stop the monster. He stares at its foe as it burns, moans, and falls, finally dead. He looks out over to Namju and Nam-il, who are again back with Hyun-seo. The first time I watched the movie, this was the moment that I realized that she was really gone. And it really shocked me because in American movies, we don't kill kids, especially not like this. If there was an American version of this movie, they would not let her die.
They would have found a way for her to be alive, yeah.
Even if, like, right now we believe she's dead, we would have seen her come to in a hospital or something, and she would be okay. And this movie doesn't hold back. She is really gone. They failed her. The government failed her. Her family tried her best, but they didn't do it, and it really shook me to my core.
Yeah, it's not often you see a movie where the protagonist loses.
Gong-do starts walking, and we assume it's towards his family, until we pan and see he's approaching Seju. Namju wipes her tears as she watches. Gong-do shakes the boy and asks if he was with Hyun-seo. Did he know her? Who is he? Seju opens his eyes and looks at Gong-do. Gong-do embraces him, but we see that, to him, it's Hyun-seo's body again. She is gone, but this boy is still alive. Seju stares up at the brown sky, and Gong-do carries him away. We see the Agent Yellow device still hangs, the chemicals still heavy in the air, protesters still trying to recover. Woo! Every time I watch this movie, like, this entire sequence gets me. I cry.
I almost did. It was really touching.
It's the relief that it's over, but it's also the sadness that she's gone, and it's also the heavy reality. All these things are still here. You still now have a city that's full of chemicals. You still have a government that allowed this to happen. Like, all of the other problems are still here. So even though we get relief,
Nothing is actually fixed.
yeah, we're not truly free. Cut to the inside of the food stand. Photos of Hyun-seo with her family members keep her memorialized. A wanted poster of the infected family is also framed. Gong-do stares out the window at the snow. He is more put together, his clothes nicer and the blonde cut out of his hair. He thinks he sees something out in the dark night. He pulls out a gun, but then puts it away. False alarm. Seju is sleeping on the floor and he covers him with a blanket, very doting. We see Gong-do preparing dinner, a variety of foods steaming hot on a small table right next to Seju. He settles into place at the table and says, "Let's eat." Seiju is up instantaneously and starts eating eagerly. It's actually pretty funny.
Oh, that kid shot right up.
He's
He's
ready.
like, food? Let's
It's like,
go.
oh, all right. I wasn't. Yeah, I'm awake now. Perfect.
The TV is on, and a report on the virus incident is playing. Seiju says there's nothing good on. Gangdu asks if he wants to watch something else, and Seiju says, no, let's focus on eating. As a press conference plays and a US official is admitting that the virus was never found and the entire incident was the result of misinformation, Gangdu stretches out with his foot to turn off the TV. The two happily shovel food into their mouths. The last shot is of the food stand, alone in the snow, next to the river, as it always has been. Peaceful at last. Credits.
Yay. A happy
Yay.
ending ish.
Ish.
Also, fun fact kind of, if you watch the entirety of the credits, the last sound we hear is of the monster growling.
Oh,
It plays right at the very end. I
Huh.
don't think it means anything. It's just, we want you to hear our monster one last time.
unless the monster had babies,
I suppose we don't know for sure it was the only one.
we may never know.
So that was the movie. I am sorry for my script being so long. There were a lot of details and I didn't want to miss any of them because I adore this and everything it has to say.
No, perfectly valid.
Up into those last moments, like when the TV is playing, it's like not only was it misinformation, but I believe that the government made up the virus to kind of distract people from finding out how the monster was created in the first place and that it was an American doctor's fault. So, unfortunately, we here in America are becoming very familiar with misinformation being spread to distract you from other things that are going on. So,
Yeah, tried and true.
I hate to say it,
Oh
but
boy.
now more than ever, I actually can relate to this movie where I didn't feel like I could relate to a lot of the political elements back when I first watched it, circa, oh gosh, probably around 2014 was the first time I saw this movie. So times have changed here in the States, and this is the movie America needs right now. But yeah, do we have fun facts, Cody, to go over?
We sure do.
Let's jump in.
So, the funnest fact is that this entire movie was based off of an actual incident. Which,
Fun!
yeah, oh boy, this actually kind of happened. Not the giant creature part that we know of.
Yeah, are you sure about that?
Yeah, who knows what the real secrets are, but pretty much exactly how the movie starts out. It was inspired by a true event occurring in 2000, where a Korean mortuary assistant was ordered to dispose of 480 bottles of a formaldehyde and methanol mix,
Jesus.
which estimated to about 24 to 26 gallons,
Oh, God.
which made its way into the Han River. Without getting into too many details, there was a very large Korean government and environmental agency justifiably angry response that wished to prosecute I believe it was, I don't know if it was army, but it was an American government working at a army base in Korea.
Wow.
Love that.
Back in 2000, we wouldn't let this happen in the US. Now we might,
I believe,
but
yeah.
Oof.
So I believe in 2005 that individual was sent to prison for,
Good.
I don't think very long.
no,
actually.
no.
Well, at least they got something, I guess. Ugh.
Yeah. The creature was inspired by a mutated fish that was found by a couple of local fishermen with a very interesting S-shaped spine.
Yeah.
Didn't kill anybody. It was just a mutated fish. But it was a local article that had come out that inspired the creation of the creature. Speaking of the creature, it never got an official name, but it does have a couple of common nicknames. The first, which I apologize because I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Gomu, which means monster in Korean.
All right.
That's kind of its, I guess, fan-accepted semi-official name. The other name that Weta Workshop and Bong Joon-Ho both refer to the monster was Steve Buscemi. Now,
I
looked
see
it
it.
up. This was not as one may initially think, anything to do with any likeness and appearance. It was due to Steve Buscemi's mannerisms in his acting in the 1996 movie Fargo.
Oh my god.
Interesting. I don't know, those eyes.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have the same eyes. I'm sorry, Steve Buscemi.
National treasure. Funny eyes.
Wonderful, man. Yeah, I guess he based the monsters like movement and general mannerisms off of Steve Buscemi's character in Fargo, which I have never
Wow.
seen
I guess I need
myself.
to watch Fargo again.
Yeah, we could see the inspiration for the host.
Analyze that.
You did mention the statue being constructed, and that was due to, as of 2009, it was the highest grossing Korean-made movie. Currently, it sits
Wow.
at number 7. But to celebrate its popularity and how widespread it became worldwide, they created a statue along the bank of the Han River.
It deserved it.
Unfortunately, yeah, it is being looked at to be taken down. Hopefully, it won't succeed, but I guess we'll keep a lookout. Or hopefully they relocate
Makes
it
me so sad.
rather than completely demolish it.
Yeah, just move it somewhere else. Good old Steve.
Yeah.
Just pick it up and put it over here.
Let's take the statue and push it somewhere else.
So we can start a GoFundMe for the Steve Buscemi Preservation Project soon. Lastly, there were a couple, I don't want to say cameos, but interesting roles played by actors that we may have recognized. You did mention that the doctor at the very beginning of the movie was played by the late Scott Wilson, who commonly may be recognized as his role as Herschel Green in the Walking Dead TV series.
I loved Herschel.
He
Herschel.
was wonderful. The other one, and you did mention this, and I wanted to say something then, but I had to restrain myself a little bit. So the American doctor that comes and talks to Gongdu after he gets taken in and tested on was played by a Mr. Paul Lazar, who
That's
is
right.
a very esteemed actor who's had a long career. Where I recognized him from was from Silence of the Lambs, where he plays Dr. Pilcher. He's one of the doctors that plays chess with the insects that Clarice goes to get the death's head moth.
I wondered why he looked familiar.
One
He's
of
the one
bug
that
guys.
asks about, cheeseburgers and beer.
Love that guy.
The second I saw him, I was like, hold on, is that the guy? My girlfriend thought that I was crazy. It's like, how did you immediately recognize that? Silence of the Lambs is one of my favorite. It's my comfort movie.
That's a good
oddly
one.
enough. And so, I looked him up, and immediately I'm like, yep, got him. That guy. So that was some fun tidbits behind the movie.
Yay.
Awesome.
Thank
you for those. Jasmine, I believe you have a theme analysis for us.
So, Bong Joon-Ho is not afraid to criticize America for its imperialism and putting its hands where they probably shouldn't belong. This starts off because of us. This is something we did, and we created this monster. And then, coming in and taking control and being like, there's a virus, don't worry, we got this. Bringing in their military, taking complete control. And then towards the end, we're going to drop this poison, this Agent Yellow. Not at all a throwback to Agent Orange, which we used.
Because that deployment went over swimmingly.
Yeah, it was great.
No problem.
It also kind of touches on how Americans kind of make themselves feel more superior, or rather make the Koreans feel inferior to them. At the beginning, we have the doctor being like, no, you're wrong, I'm right, dump it, it's fine. And then again, when Gongdu is sitting there with the Korean doctors around him, and they're kind of like, a little unprofessional, we would say. They're wearing their PPE wrong, the equipment's not ready, and then the American doctor comes in and it's like, okay, we gotta look cool for this guy. We gotta let him do his thing.
It's like that moment in The Devil Wears Prada when Stanley Tucci is like, gird your loins.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can tell he really feels it too. He kind of swaggers in through the door and he's like, yes, I am big doctor man. I'm in charge.
exactly.
And then he gaslights Gongdu.
Yeah. Like,
What
oh,
an ass.
you have dementia. Oh no.
He doesn't actually have dementia. Don't tell anybody.
Spoiler
Anyways,
alert.
let's go ahead and drill that dementia out.
We talk a little bit about incompetence, the government incompetence, again, dumping the formaldehyde into the river, creating the creature, and their continued incompetence. We see the Korean government official come in the hazmat suit at the memorial service, tripping immediately.
Completely unprepared.
Yeah, like, come on, guy. The family, everybody is incompetent in some way. You have the dad who didn't take care of his kid growing up, Gongdu's incompetence with his child, grabbing the wrong kid at the beginning, being a bumbling idiot, got the drunk, and Namju just kind of gets lumped in there because she's a bronze medalist.
Well, she's also slow.
She
She can't
is.
make decisions. Like, not only is she slow physically, but she holds herself back with overthinking and not trusting her gut. And so she is arguably, the most well adapted of the family to being her own human person surviving out there in the world. But she still has her faults with just being swept along and not deciding things.
Yeah. We see how people in this sort of situation are able to adapt and overcome these extraordinary events. They, despite their incompetency, they do come together and they are able, even though they aren't able to save her, they are able to kill the monster at the end, thus saving everybody, quote
Yeah.
unquote.
And it's less their fault that she doesn't make it, because if they were given help or resources or not being chased out by the military at all times, they very well may have found her, but there were so many other obstacles in their way.
Media sensationalism is something that we talked a little bit about. How when the American doctor comes in to talk to Gongdu, one of the things he mentions is, "You haven't talked to the media yet? How come?" And it's just the media is such a good way to spread the misinformation. You know, if it's on the news, it's got to be true, right?
Yeah, the government said it, so we have to listen.
Yeah, of course.
Sadly, this is still a very relevant thought process that people have.
Yeah,
Do you think the
big
government
time.
would just tell lies?
They can't do that, right? They're the government. They
No, they
can't
would
lie to
never.
us. They can't do that. There's also a pretty big critique of human negligence towards the environment, dumping the formaldehyde into the river. You know, we did this in real life. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, the Agent Orange, the Agent Orange,
Might
the
as well be.
Agent Yellow, right? They said that it was going to kill like all biological matter in the area, which, why? Why do that?
Which also
Why?
kind of includes humans.
Yeah.
And they dumped it before even the timer had ran out. They just dumped
Mhm.
it because the monster was there and they didn't care.
Yeah, they don't care. They really don't care about what happens to the people. And we do see stuff like this in real life all the time, unfortunately. Yeah.
One other thing I did also notice is near the beginning of the movie, after he tosses the beer can into the river, just how quickly everybody just starts throwing whatever they have in their pockets into the water and immediately filling it with trash.
Yes.
Yeah, even the food that they throw is still packaged in like plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody cares what happens. Unfortunate.
It is a really heavy movie.
Yeah. There's a
Which-
lot in there.
And I think that Bong Joon-ho, again, does super well in making his point, making sure you know his point, but then also giving us some comedic relief so that we don't leave the movie just completely devastated
Mhm.
psychologically.
Yeah, I think we all needed those little comedic breaks at a few strategic points, because if it was just downtrodden the whole time, like, I would have been exhausted by the end of it. Like, it can only be sad for so long.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get the little Benny Hill van chase in the parking
Yeah.
lot.
In looking up reviews of the movie, which I kind of like to do, there are just a lot of American people who watch it and who say that they don't get the hype because it's not really that great of a monster, to which I say correct because you need all of the elements to complete the movie. It is not solely about the monster. Other people critique it for being too long because everybody splits up at the end, and it kind of feels like with the father's death, we're leading up to the end, and there's still 40 minutes left at that point. To which I say again, this movie is not just a movie for enjoyment consumption. It is saying something, and at 2 hours, it's still a good hour shorter than a Marvel movie. And it has just so many messages, and they are messages for you to be educated, stand up for what's right, know what's happening around you. It's not like messages hope, or we're going to get through this, or messages good always prevails like we see in so many American movies. They are messages this is on you, and you may feel like Gongdu because you feel like you can't do anything, and even when you try, you're messing it up. But even though he did not get everything that he wanted, he didn't save his daughter, he still prevails at the end, and he is a new person, and he has a bond with that little boy. And so it's just very, you are in charge of this. These are the things that you need to look out for. And I don't know, I think you need the full 2 hours. I think you need all those themes, and I think that this movie will go down in history. More people watch it, especially now when things are very relevant in the United States. I hope it gets its second coming to say.
It definitely hits a little bit different given the current climate and also post-COVID, semi-post
Yeah.
COVID. Yeah, definitely has a little bit extra context that, I mean, they couldn't have predicted when they made the movie, but I think the general messages that it conveys applying even almost 20 years later.
And these are things that like South Korea has gone through. And so that's why this movie probably hit home for them watching it when it came out. If anything, I feel like the fact that this was made 19 years ago just shows history repeats itself, and we have to be ready.
I feel like even at the time it did have a little bit of a point for us. I mean, Flint, Michigan, they
Yeah.
haven't had the clean drinking water, and so, dumping chemicals into a huge river that supplies millions of Korean people. I think definitely there's some relativity there.
For sure. Yeah, my only point is I think in 2006 it was a lot easier for the average American to not be exposed to this knowledge that these things are actually happening. In 2006, all of us who weren't in the area did not know about things like Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
So it's very good that we know now, and we can actually stand up against it. Not that it seems to do anything, but
Yeah, no.
we're trying. Anyways, I have kind of gone off track a little bit, so I think we ought to get into our letterboxed review. Yes?
Yes. Oh my
Hey.
goodness.
So we're going to start off with a scary scale. We do rate on a scale of 1 to 5 because that is the scale that Letterboxd uses. I give this movie a lot of grace because, again, the first time I saw it, I was a horror novice, and there are a lot of scary elements for me. So even though I wasn't scared watching it this time around, besides maybe that one brain surgery scene, I am going to give it a higher score just because I know how it made me feel then. So I am going to go ahead 3. I think that horror novices are going to be disturbed by this film, but not necessarily not be able to handle it. People who are super into horror aren't going to be too afraid of it. So I like that 3.
I think a 3 is fair. It's not really scary. It does have tension, and it does have very real, very scary messages. And those, they can impact a person just as much as the scary music or as the jump scares or a serial killer chasing after somebody.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. 3 seems perfectly appropriate. I wouldn't say I was scared at any point in the movie, but there are some, like you said, there are some horrifying moments throughout. Like, yeah, that medical scene is like it's like a different kind of fear almost. It far more real and visceral than I think I was prepared for when I first sat down to watch it.
All right, so we got 3s across the board. And so now we're going to go into a quality scale, how good we think the film is, not taking into account the scary rating. I think it's pretty obvious for me. It is masterful storytelling and brings in so many elements that a lot of horror movies don't dare to do. I think it holds up even after 19 years. You can nitpick the CGI if you want to, but when you think about it being 2006, I think it looks incredible for the time and the place. 5 easy.
I think I'm going to have to go with a 4.5. I think it was really, really well done. And some of those messages really did have a big impact on me. I think it just holds up really well, even after almost 20 years.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with 5. I loved it from start to finish. You know, people want to nitpick on the CGI. For me, it kind of reminded me of like in old cartoons where something that was animated was very clearly colored differently, and how no one really seems to mind that. That's just a feature of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this movie can vote. Like, what do you expect from it? I think it looks lovely, and the messages and the storytelling and the pacing, it being a little bit of a longer movie, I don't feel like there was any wasted scenes, and I feel like it was timed very, very well, which a lot of movies struggle with today.
It's got the heart. And then another thing that I didn't really bring up earlier, just because we are an American audience, I assume we're going to have majority American listeners. There are some powerhouse actors in this film. Our main characters, especially, these are very famous, very skilled South Korean actors. You can see it in this film. Bong Joon-Ho loves working with the same actors. If you watch his other films, you might see them pop up as well. And so acting wise as well, this is incredible. And these people are famous for a reason. And I didn't bring up their names because unfortunately they aren't famous in our circle. But I highly encourage and look up the cast and see what else they've done, because the heart is there. These actors are incredible. Everyone who worked on this film was truly skilled. This is the equivalent to big budget Hollywood level film. So
Even the actors for the kids were really good.
so good. Alrighty, and that brings us to the end of our coverage of The Host. Sorry that this episode was so long. I had a lot to say. Hope that you enjoyed our take and our analysis of it. And so next week we will be doing another film that I select because it is my birthday and I get to make the rules for the rest of March. So I have chosen a film that I have a lot of positive memories associated. This is comfort horror for me. Love this film, not necessarily because it's good. We are going to be doing Lazarus Effect. Hello, Eva here popping in to say, wow, sorry, it seems that there were some connection issues in this episode as well. I'm not sure what happened, but I am working on it. Perhaps my computer is just angry that we recorded for so long. I tried to say this earlier, but had to cut it. Not all of our episodes are going to be this long, so please don't worry about that. Anyway, to clarify though, what I just said here was that we are covering The Lazarus Effect, the movie from 2015. Just wanted to make sure you guys could hear that properly.
Oh
Ooh.
boy.
Currently streaming on Amazon Prime. I look forward to it.
It's gonna be a fun one.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the episode. Don't forget to check us out on socials. They will be linked down in the description. And please, if you're able and you liked us, give us a rating and a follow.
Thank you for joining us. This has been Scenes, Screams, and Spooky Themes, Take 3. That's a wrap.